Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Florida Business Incubator Spark Tank. This morning we are featuring Dino Eliadas and the five things that businesses. Well, Dino, what's the title of what you're doing?
Three reasons you get stuck growing your business.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, take it away, Dino. Floor is yours.
Okay, so I figured this morning I'd kind of do an intro. Michael, I don't know if you wanted to mention anything at all about the new format that we're going to start doing kind of going forward every other week, having a topic of presentation more or less, and then the off weeks to have the challenges like we did. So there's a schedule coming out of, and this is kind of the first topic we selected. And the reason I picked the three reasons that owners get stuck is because I think as we go through this, you'll find that they tend to be mindset oriented. You know, they're more in the way that owners think. And Michael's presentation the week after next is going to be on, kind of the psychology of thinking differently and that sort of thing within the business. And so I figured it would be a good segue going into that. So this particular topic is something that we've written on a long time. It's based off of, I've been working with small business owners. It'll be 3 decades come July of next year. So, 29 years now I've been consulting with small businesses. So this isn't something that, I just kind of, what can we throw together or whatever. Consistently, these are the things that I found that really kind of are at a root cause as to the reason that owners get stuck growing their business. And the unfortunate thing is most business owners haven't learned how to be a business owner. They started the business because they had something that they came up with and they thought, well, I can do this better. This is my path to financial freedom and independence, whatever it may have been. And they start down the path. Unfortunately, they still have a mindset as an employee and they approach the business that way, and it creates all kinds of havoc for them. What I typically find is many small business owners tend to focus on tactical symptoms of bigger underlying problems. And so you don't necessarily, they're trying to fix some of these things. And let me give a list of those things and see if any of these things kind of sound familiar. So, how many of you have heard small business owners, or if you own a small business yourself, you probably struggle with cash flow issues almost on a regular basis, right? There's employee drama going on in the business. Everybody's bringing everything to work, and you're dealing with stuff that has nothing to do with the business. If you own a small business, you're probably taking on way more than you need to. You're juggling a dozen balls in the air all at the same time. And, all of this stuff kind of piles up, and as a result, you get little to no growth, in the business, whether it be top line growth, bottom line growth, it doesn't matter. Both of them are impacted in some way, shape, or form through this stuff. You may be worried about the loss of what would happen if you lose a key employee, if you've got a really good salesperson, or you're tied or bound to a specific technician that provides the service that you provide or anything like that, and so you'll worry about that, if not 12 to 14, 24/7, right? That's how much we work as a small business owner. And you never really, because you got so many things on your plate, you really feel kind of that you don't even know what the next thing you should focus on is. And so, a lot of times the result of this is we feel alone and with no support. And that's part of the reason why FBI created the Spark Tank, right? So that you would have someplace that you could come and share the things that are going on. And if you're in a group, and peer groups are a great way to learn of other people, and you're hearing they have the same struggles, they're having the same problems that you are, it makes it feel a little less lonely. Okay. So do any of these problems sound familiar? Anybody that knows a small business owner, if you're a small business owner yourself, any of these things, have you ever struggled with it? If you haven't, you probably will at one time or another as you own a business. But the problem with these things are they're really symptomatic problems, okay? They're not, at their root, there's something else that's causing those issues to surface within the business. So if you work on fixing those, what happens is you're probably going to see a leak that's going to plop out someplace else once you play. It's the old, remember the little Dutch boy, he put his finger in the dike and the water started coming out someplace else. Same concept there. And that's because these are symptomatic issues. So everything really that Business Growth Simplified is really kind of focused on is really in our process for fixing those root cause problems. So we want to take you through a process that helps you to understand, I have this problem, but here's where that problem is coming from so that we can focus on the right thing. Because if we fix that, that'll go away and it won't manifest itself in another issue or another problem down the road. Now, at its core, a lot of the problems we find really kind of stem from three basic issues that if you fix these three things, a lot of the problems, if they may not go away completely, but at least you'll understand why they're there and what you need to do in order to fix those problems if you go down the road. And so the first problem is most small business owners work their business like a job. All they look at it for is, what do I need to do to get from now to payday? And as a result of that, they get into that rut, and it's, day after day, week after week, month after month, just getting up, going to a job, and so we got to get out of that, mentality. And I'm going to talk about, ways to fix these problems as we go through. The second one is that most business owners don't understand that growing a business is a systematic process. They don't understand what those steps and those stages are that you got to move the business through. And depending on what stage you're in, what is it that you need to focus on at this time to get my business to the next stage and the next level. And so as a result of that, they get stuck because of whatever reason, because somebody's telling them, well, you need to focus on this and you need to focus on that. And again, it's focusing on a tactical, symptomatic problem as opposed to fixing structurally something that will correct the root cause problem and help you to move the business forward. So after working and struggling with these first two issues, what typically happens is people get disillusioned, okay? And the third reason I find that business owners get stuck is they forgot their dream. Why did I start the business in the first place? Okay, you hear people say, well, what's your why? Most business owners, it isn't to get up and go to work every day to make a paycheck. They had something else. The problem is you get so stuck in the day-to-day of it, and if you don't keep refocusing yourself on that, eventually you forgot what that dream was in the first place, and you stop really kind of trying to reach for it. And that's what puts people into kind of a tailspin. So I guess I'd like to maybe open it up at this point and see, does this make sense? I mean, is this stuff that any of you have kind of witnessed yourself? And let's talk a little bit maybe about that before I head off to tell you how to solve some of these things.
Hi, Dino. Hi, everyone. I'll jump in first just because I will. But anyway, good to be here. I think those are spot on with some of the root causes that I've seen. But before you even presented those, Dino, one popped in my head that was kind of being expressed on a webinar that I was just on earlier. And so that's why it was fresh in my mind. And I experienced this one myself as well. And I think a lot of other people might experience as a root cause too. And maybe Michael will talk about it more next time. But it's inner conflicts. So we want to grow this business, but we also want this. Or we don't know this, or we do have this dream, but we also want this. And so those inner conflicts, until they're resolved, I have found are a big root cause too. And it's not just the mind, it's our inner conflict of our values and all that kind of stuff.
No, and I agree with that. I mean, that's really kind of that's the whole point of that, you know, forgetting the dream piece. You know, if you think this is what I want, but, you know, in your heart of hearts, that's not really what it is that you want, and you haven't really, you really don't know yourself, you know, so part of that process of really getting and really understanding what that dream really is, of what it is that you want. For me, and the way I always approach it is, I don't care about the business until I understand as a person what it is that you really want from life and why you believe that this business is the vehicle that will help you to achieve that outcome. So in my process, that's the first step in the process.
One of the conflicts that I've seen a lot is that a business owner wants to succeed, but they're also afraid to fail.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Hence they just, so they wind up half-stepping, and they're really working against themselves.
Well, there's also
Have you seen much of that?
Yeah.
I've heard, well, are you willing to do whatever it takes? Right? And you're not serious if you're not willing to do whatever it takes. And so then that can create a conflict too, because gosh, I want to do whatever it takes, but you know what? I do have a family, and there's things that come up, and am I going to work my job 24/7 or the 12 to 14 hours a day and give up those other things? Right. And so I think that falls into play too. So yeah, good stuff, Dino.
Absolutely. I mean, those are factors that all of these things, and like I said, that forgotten the dream piece and really kind of going through that whole self-actualization piece, and you're not going to self-actualize necessarily, but really understanding yourself and having a level of self-knowledge that you need is critical, because when you start putting that plan together as to how you and what you're going to do day to day, if you haven't factored all of those other personal factors into that plan, that's when you start getting that conflict.
So Dino, I have a question. This is something I struggled with when I was a kid. I would run across people who said, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a dentist, I want to be this. And I'm like, I don't know what I want to be. And I literally have changed what I do over the years, because what I really found out I like is variety. That's why I think it's also true that we can, if we're trying to pin exactly what we want or want to do, it could shift. I mean, that's why there's serial entrepreneurs. They might want to do this for a while, and then they want to go do this, and then they want to go do this. And so it's not black and white, I guess, is what I'm trying to say to me.
Well, if you want to do that, what I force people to even go beyond that too is to say, why do you want that? I mean, this goes right back to, I mean, the whole concept that Tony Robbins teaches too, which is understanding not just your values and what it is that you value or want, but, you know, what are your beliefs about those things, so that you can connect and understand why that's important to you, you know?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to to put in there is that, you know, the emotional factors, the emotional awareness is an important piece to all of this that a lot of people struggle with. Which I think is what you're also saying, you know.
Yep.
You know, and one thing that I see, you know, I watch my sister, who was always much more successful in school than me. She was valedictorian, you know, and she can't anchor anything down. And me, who struggled, who can stick with something. And some of that is that I think, you know, the success out there looks too big.
Right.
There's that fear of success that we've talked about in these groups before. Or that fear of failure, which for me, I guess I've made it my mantra that failure is learning for growth. You know, I have to always remind myself of that piece. Otherwise, you know, the suffering of failure can impede my ability to move forward.
Absolutely. So. I like that mantra though too, Evelyn. Can I steal that?
Yes.
That's a great,
and I liked what she shared too, is the fear of success. Oh my gosh. Then I'm going to have all this even more responsibility of all these employees and all of this legal stuff and all of this stuff I don't know what I don't know about. And that can get scary.
Well, and that's a good transition actually, Kathy, what you just mentioned there, because I think the reason that people think those things is because of what that first reason that I talked about. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again here if I can find my Zoom room. Where the heck is it at?
Well, there's certainly something to say for the expectations that others have for us and we have for ourselves in that idea of success. And I don't think we always identify what all of those are. I think that's kind of like peeling an onion anyway.
Right.
Yeah, repeatedly being curious, you know, in the counseling realm that, you know, I've spent a lot of time and studied, and is, you know, that curiosity instead of self-battering. I'm always working on that for myself. I'm always reminding the people I love around me to be curious. You know, what is that? Instead of, yeah. Because that whole success and failure thing is an interesting dynamic that starts from such an early age.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what Michael's going to share with us the week after next, how to fix some of that stuff or deal with it. I don't know if you can fix it, but you can at least learn to deal with it, right? All right, so let me go jump back onto this first slide here, I guess, and go back to the whole what I call the payday mentality, or, you know, I mean, you hear people talk about it all the time. You're working your business like a job. And Kathy, this kind of is what you were talking about. If I grow the business bigger, I'm going to have more responsibility. I'm going to have this. That's because people are thinking, because I own the business, I have to run the business. I'm in charge of the business. No, you're the owner of the business. You have to separate those things and say, what does it take to be an owner? And am I going to choose to be the CEO, president, and responsible for everything? Or am I going to bring somebody in and I'm going to give them the responsibility and hold them accountable for accomplishing what it is that I want? That's the shift from an employee mentality to an owner mentality, or what I would call an entrepreneur mentality. So it's that.
Right. But then they say, but I can't afford that.
Oh, no, I understand that. From day one, you can't. Okay. But if that isn't one of the objectives that you've set in your business plan as you grow your business, you're never going to think about that, and you're just going to continue to pile on and pile on and pile on and pile on. And that's why people get down the road 30 years from now and it's like, I've had it. I want to just get rid of it or whatever. Then they start the process that I said, if you started that from day one, in 3 to 5 years, you'd have had all of those choices that you're going to have at that point, you know, or, you know, just shut the business down and just go and do something else. So. But you're right.
Go get a job.
You can't afford to do that at day one, but you need to at least look at how much would it cost me in order to bring somebody in like that? What would that person look like? And begin to outline a job description at least, you know, and the criteria that you would use to evaluate that person's performance against, so that you can be on the lookout for that person.
So,
Or
you
know,
know, I have
internally-
another
there's
question.
so go ahead.
I have a question. So, if people don't feel that they have the financial wherewithal to, you know, hire the person or whatever to get there, and there are free resources out there through like SCORE and all of this, then what is the problem? Because so what I'm kind of trying to, I guess, express is, I think the word that popped into my mind is, we're trying to present the absolutes. This is absolutely why you are having this problem. And to me, when we get stuck in absolutes, we can lose people. Because if they don't feel in their mind that fits them, then you've lost them. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Sure.
I understand what you're saying, Kathy. And, you know, if my presentation style isn't meet, you know, those people, yeah, then, you know, then this isn't going to resonate with them. But, you know, typically what I will find though is people will use every excuse to say, no, I don't have this problem, or this isn't what I'm struggling with, or whatever. But it's like, it's all right there in black and white, you know.
But it's speaking their language so that it does resonate with them. Because there's matchers and there's mismatchers. People will look for the differences and people will look for the sameness. And then there's people who will look for differences first and then look for the sameness, or they'll look for the sameness first and then the differences.
Well,
and
again,
so there's,
and again, it's a course of delivery. I mean, what you're saying is don't say it the way that you're saying it. What I'm saying is these things, these aren't things that I've just kind of, well, this is my opinion, so I'm going to throw it out there or whatever. I mean, when I figure something out, I go find all the research and all of the third party. So I build systems, and if you follow the systems, these are the results that you will get. If people don't like the way that I deliver the message, then they need to get the message from somebody else, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But I've seen the other way where people get coddled and they stay into that same, thing. The problem with a lot that I find with most of those organizations is they're not basing what it is that they deliver on, they're looking for the people. Now, if the people have stumbled upon this for themselves, then then you're going to get good help from those outside organizations,
There's another piece to this. I've also seen small business people who like the idea of running a restaurant.
Right.
Well, let's say, and they really like to cook,
Right.
but they really don't like the business part.
Right.
And so hence they don't spend enough time on the business part to get the business to be successful enough where they can hire somebody to do the business part. And they wind up in this kind of evil spiral that just has them frustrated, going nowhere at all.
Well, and that's and what that becomes is, again, it goes back to what it is, think about, well, and the next problem really kind of is that whole, it's still a mindset thing, Michael, but I guess it's a good, if you remember, I've always, I've said more than one time, there's 5 stages and 8 factors that influence business growth. The 5 stages, most businesses, small businesses are either in stage 1 and stage 2, and they stay stuck there because they don't even understand that there's a stage 3 where, if you get the business to that point, and that's what we try to help people to get to that point, the business will run whether you're there or not. Then you can have options and you can make the decisions. If you're a cook and that's what you want to do, you can go and just cook, but you don't have to go and cook because you have to bring a paycheck home and pay all your bills. Somebody else is responsible for doing those things. But to your point, Michael, I think what happens, and this is where people get stuck too, is those leadership and management factors. Those leadership factors are factors directly tied to the owner, okay? And they're the owner's goals, their operational skills, their ability to manage the business, and their ability to think strategically about how they're growing and scaling and what they're doing with that business. Owners don't take the time because I don't like business, so I don't really, so they don't take the time to maturate that particular self, those competencies within themselves, which even if they hired someone to do that stuff for them, they still have to have a level of competency to understand that that person's doing the right things or not. So again,
Amen.
It's a mindset thing. I don't want to run a business. It's like, well, then don't run a business. If you like cooking, then go be a chef for somebody else and have a job, because that's what you're doing in yourself, but you've taken all of the risk and responsibility on of owning that business yourself, all of the factors that go along with that, and so that's, in a nutshell, really, I think the dynamic that ends up going on there. Because, yeah, what you said, Michael, I see that happen all the time. I hear people saying that all the time.
Just want to welcome. Right.
Go ahead.
Just want to welcome Melanie to our group this morning. Welcome, Melanie.
Yeah. Hey, Melanie. I invited Melanie to come. Melanie's with the city, with Dade City.
Good morning.
Good morning. Back to you, Dino.
So we covered those first two aspects of things, right? Okay, so you got mindset being the one thing, and then not following that systematic, or at least addressing the factors that influence growth and understanding what you need to be focused on within those 5 stages that exist for growth. So let's go back. So, the 5 stages, I mean, each of those stages, there's one and only one goal in the stage. So if you're in stage 1 and all of the factors that influence that, haven't been met, your only focus is trying to break even consistently every month and understanding what it is that you need to do that. And everything that you need to be on achieving that outcome. When your business achieves that outcome, your business organically moves to the next stage, and now you can add owner-defined profit on top of that. And what I mean by owner-defined profit, it isn't just like, we're going to work for 12 months and see what's left over. No, you set the goal. How much profit do you want to make for the year? We want the business to bring in 15% net profit this year, and everything that you do every day is towards achieving that outcome. And the problem is a lot of businesses, they get to that point and they stop growing at that point because they don't realize that, the next stage to remove more risk from the business and get it to that point so you have independence and financial freedom is getting to stage 3. And that is removing the owner from the requirement for day-to-day operations. So the owner isn't a cog in the wheel anymore. Others in the systems that you put in place accomplish that, and you can interconnect, you can put people in and out of those things and they know what it is that they need to do on a day-to-day basis.
So Dino, I have another question.
Sure.
So stage 1 is, if I understood correctly, getting the business owner to at least break even point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. What was stage 2?
Stage 2 is a survival stage. So the goal there is for the business to consistently hit an owner required or an owner defined profit or profitability for the business.
And stage 3 is for the
Is self-sustainability. So you're going to make a decision at that point. Am I just going to keep the business and have it stay here? Or, you know, or am I going to go beyond this and go to stage 4 and move into the rapid growth stage, which really the business turns into a large corporation in stage 4. But in stage 3, all the things have to be set so that the owner can be removed from the business, and the business still consistently stays operational and cash flows. And it doesn't slide back into stage 1.
Okay, so but at stage 3, a business owner could say, I like this, I can handle this, this is comfortable, even though I'm still the operator, I'm making a profit, and you know what, I don't really want to grow any bigger than this.
Correct. But there's a difference, and this is why business owners get stuck, because that's no different than stage 2. I've still got a profit. In stage 2, I can be wildly profitable. The difference between stage 2 and stage 3 is the owner isn't required for the business to create that net profit.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
I was looking at some possible businesses to acquire, and this was just in the write-up of it, and it said, here's the business, here's the sales revenue, here's the adjusted EBITDA or SDE for the business.
Yeah, what's the cash flow of the business?
Yep.
Right?
And the 2 owners are willing to stay in the business, and not just for a short transition period, but for a longer transition period. And to some that could be great, and to some that could be, you know, why and all that kind of stuff. And so if we get to the survival stage and they're making profit, and the owner is or isn't, the difference is working in the business, what is this scenario when they're working in the business but they don't really need to? Or maybe they are at the level of working.
They're at stage 3, if that's the case. So if you can remove the business owner from the business, they're at stage 3. It's a stage 3 company. It's just the owners decided that they like doing what it is that they do. I mean, I have many clients that are this way, because I did a lot of work in the business, you know, the business design for home design and stuff like that. And they like, because that's what they did. They drew plans and they enjoy doing that, and they get satisfaction, and they want to do that until they put them in a box.
But the majority of businesses out in the marketplace don't even make $1 million a year.
I have a client that doesn't make $1 million a year, and the owner can retire from the business today. The amount of revenue has nothing to do with this. And this is another problem, is the way that we evaluate, that a lot of people evaluate businesses isn't right. I mean, the Pasco EDC, when we went through all of this stuff, that's why they wanted this, and that's why they promoted this with the last regime that was there, because they understood that all the factors that they were using to evaluate businesses and evaluate the impact economically to the county was wrong, because it didn't really represent what was really happening within businesses and what businesses needed to be focused on. So,
Okay, so I have a question. So if I go to stage 3 and I make a profit, and I get the owner to stay in the business, and the owner is or isn't the difference is working in the business, or maybe they are at the level of working.
there, 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 there,
So when you said, you gave the example of the business owner that's making less than $1 million revenue, he can still retire.
Yep.
And because of my background in personal finances, right, as a certified financial planner, I know that they had to have some strategy for.
Nope. Their strategy is, okay, the net profit from that business is sufficient that it will pay them what they need in order to live the life that they want to live.
Okay, and so for that particular person, they're going to keep the business going, it sounds like, because that's their income stream or one of their income streams,
right,
to fund their retirement. So they could, without even knowing it, be losing out on the opportunity of selling their business because they're only seeing it as an income stream.
Right, but selling the business, and again, it isn't. The whole point of this philosophy is you have options.
Yeah.
If you want to sell your business, but it's owner-operated business, you'll get 1/4 to 1/3 of what it was that you would get for your business if it was an absentee owner business. I mean,
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Consistently, brokers have told me that they've had 2 businesses that were identical to one another, and I can get $1 million for this business and only 250,000, and the revenue and everything else is the same. The only thing that's different is this one is owner operated, and number 2 is an absentee owner. That the owner doesn't do anything but collect a check. It's just an investment in their investment portfolio. They own 100% of the stock in that business and, receive the profit from that.
So the one that will be worth more is which one?
The one that has an absentee owner, because that business has gotten to the level 3.
Okay. But the struggles that we're talking about in the incubator are usually at level 1 and stage 1 and stage 2, right?
Most businesses that I've run across and that I've met in the incubator are usually have a foot in 1 and 2 or 2 and 3.
Okay.
So there's not a definitive you're in one stage or the other. I mean, you may have factors that you've got in stage 3. The problem are you're not addressing the ones that you need to be addressing in order to help you to take that step out of stage 2 and put you consistently into stage 3, or out of stage 1 and put you consistently into stage 2.
So I heard you say that there's 8 factors. I think on one screen you showed 2 factors. Please continue with your presentation.
Those are 2 categories. Those are just 2 categories.
Okay.
I mean, this is all the stuff that's in the book. So, I mean, actually, Michael, if you share share the growth thing, I have resources that go into detail all this stuff. We can we'll post them in. So the mindset stuff, there's a post that I have that'll address those things, and there's resources to help people with that. Same thing with the growth stage. I don't know if I can get back to that other slide.
Okay.
Yeah, so the leader, there's 2 categories. So the leadership factors are the owner's goals, the operational skills of the owner, the managerial ability of the owner, and the owner's ability to think strategically. And then the management factors are systems, personnel resources, business assets, and financial assets. And those are the 8 factors.
All right, did I put your resources in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just shows you I'm obedient.
So the and we'll go into more. We can go into more detail on any of that stuff at a later dates for sure. And I mean, this is the stuff we're going to cover in the full blown 12-week course, and help people to actually apply this to their business. So the next area that I talked about is, okay, if you get stuck in all that other stuff, typically what happens is people get in a rut. And when I start working with people, typically the first thing I want to know is, why'd you start the business in the first place? And so as we begin to kind of really peel the onion back, I start to find that, what they want and what they do day to day are out of sync. They're misaligned. Their personal goals and their business goals aren't synced up. They're not consistent. And as a result, that's why they become miserable. They don't feel like they're working towards anything because those two things, like, well, what are you trying to do? I'm trying to grow the business. We're at one, we're almost to 1 million, and I want to make it 2 million. Okay. So tell me what you want in your life. What is it that well, I want more time with my family. I don't have enough time with the kids and the family, and the kids are growing up or anything else. Those two things are diametrically opposed to one another. I mean, you can't, if you don't have any help and you're trying to do it all yourself, that's why you're spending your time with your business instead of with your family. And, that's why you have that inner turmoil, more or less. So I always start from the premise of, what is it that you want to do? And we're going to help you to reconnect with that dream to help you get to where it is that you've got. So one of the resources that Michael posted in there is, we have a 7-day challenge that helps you to really kind of go back, reflect, make sure that your things are, are consistent with one another. And, so you can go out, and that's a free resource. You just go sign up on the online platform and, knock out through the, that challenge if you want. The whole idea is to reflect and really understand what it was that you wanted out of life and why you started the business in the first place. So you have that passion that you need to do the hard work that needs to get done to get you to stage 3. Depending on how long the business has been operating, I've seen businesses go from stage 2 to stage 3, in less than 12 months. But that's because it was already operating. They still had that employee worker mindset. And as soon as we fixed that problem, everything else opened up, and the business just down the road it went. And, we were able to get it there because we shifted what the objectives of the company were. So. Additionally, the tool that we have that we use, and it's kind of embedded in that 7-day challenge, is what is the personal goal assessment. This is I'm trying to remember how many questions. I think it's 27 questions, but these are very open-ended, objective questions. For the tools that we offer, consistently people say that's the hardest thing that I have had to do through anything that you've made me do. And the reason for it is we make people really reflect deeply and answer questions that they probably haven't answered for a long time. What is it that you're most proud of in your life? And if you're not doing something consistent with what it is that gives you happiness and joy and makes you proud of your life, then there's probably underlying factors as to why you're sabotaging your business and what it is that you're trying to accomplish with your business as a result of that. And so that's kind of how the personal dynamic and the management and business dynamic work together as a part of our process, more or less. So
Cool.
That's what I got. I'm happy to open everything up if people want to talk about some of those things and that sort of thing. The book addresses a lot of this stuff. I'm happy to get anybody a copy if they need, or you can get it on Amazon. There's, it's in a Kindle version as well. So we can go do Q&A at this point too, and bring it back to live.
I have a question. I always have questions. What was the outcome of today's topic? Presenting today's topic. What was the outcome? Mm-hmm.
Right. To know the three key areas where businesses get stuck.
Okay. Just as a suggestion, you want to recap them at the end. So to check in to see if the people got the outcome. Because I lost it along the way, and that's why I asked the question. And the only reason I'm saying this is I've been taking a course on instructional design, and I'm learning that there's all these different pieces to putting together a training that I kind of know, but I don't always do. And there's other things that I'm still learning still. So just as,
I understand, Kathy. This was stripped down. This is a piece of what it is that we're doing. Is the free webinar that we're doing is the introduction for the full program that we're doing. So I stripped it out. I didn't want it to be exactly the same as the other one. So.
All right.
I appreciate the
input. So questions, folks?
Questions for anybody? I have a question for Jeff or Danny. You guys are out talking to business owners pretty consistently in the community. Any of this stuff kind of resonate and say, yeah, I see this over here, or that guy's got that problem, or anything like that? Or yeah, if they were thinking this way, or, if they understood that component, that would make, that would probably help them get beyond where they're kind of at or stuck.
In all honesty, Danny might be able to speak to that topic a little better than I can.
Sure.
When I talk to the business owners, I really don't talk down to that level.
No, you're right.
Because that also gets beyond my area of expertise at all. So I just kind of get a feeling of how they're doing in general, you know, and things of that nature. So that's kind of where I kind of keep it at that 30,000 foot level.
Sure. Well, and that makes sense because of your role, obviously. So you don't need to get down and dirty into the tactics. You'd probably end up sending it to Danny and Bob anyhow, right? So
yes,
right. Yeah. I was still. I at least would love to hear what you are hearing, Jeff, even at your 35-foot level. Yeah.
The one thing I have heard from some of the business owners and what they would like to see the FBI kind of take on and is statistical data within Dunedin, and kind of be a warehouse for what's going on from a business standpoint. One of the things that I've been focusing on recently is trying to identify at least the top 10 reasons the people who live in downtown or on the outskirts of downtown, why they get in their cars and go somewhere other than work. Where are they going and why? And that'll give us an idea of what businesses that we don't have downtown. We don't have, right now, pharmacy is stuck in my head. We're going to Walgreens all the time, or CVS, or to Publix. Why should people who live downtown do that? So I'm just, my focus is on how can we make our downtown sustainable? How can we make it more walkable? Although so my focus is always on, I don't think we have a parking. What's missing? We don't have a parking problem. If we don't have a parking problem, we have a transportation problem. And also when you get those type of businesses, hopefully you'll get those business owners living in our downtown. A big thing you've seen with our next big project is the Gateway project. And I'm in favor of that project. I think it's nice, but I also want to acknowledge that every employee they're going to have in relation to that project is a minimum wage, for the most part, employee. So now we've got more people making minimum wage or around there that won't be able to live downtown. They can't afford it. So that's going to mean all those employees have to drive into downtown, have to take up parking spaces, so everybody else can complain about our parking problem. Right. And so it's a matter of and so how because those are real issues. And so
I get it. I get it.
You know, and so if they're going right, we got everybody's into they need their urban I don't even know how to say it, but if they need to go to Ace Hardware, right, your urban hardware people, what is it that they're getting at Ace? Why are they going to Home Depot? We know it's not for shovels and gardening. So why are they going? And we need to have something downtown that addresses that.
That provides
and
that.
So it's just, so it's a matter of what I did here downtown is who was responsible, because if we have that data, then it's like, now how can we address it and how can we go out and get that? I don't know that it's an FBI issue, but I think that if it's something the FBI were willing to take on, that adds more value of FBI to the community.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So that kind of raises the status of FBI, even though it might not be your direct objective on what you want to happen in there. I recently sent a report to, I got it to Danny and to Bob Iron-Smith, and Michael, you got a copy on how competitive the region is, and also equity and within the region as well. Two wonderful reports out of the Tampa Bay Partnerships that really identify where Tampa Bay region sits compared to other similar regions throughout the country, and just where our weaknesses are, where our positives are. And I think that it's also just another warehouse that I think somebody in the city needs to have that, if either FBI or DDMA or the chamber or the city, but somebody needs to be able to have that resource and be able to address those issues. How can we make our downtown even more competitive? You know, it's not a matter of just pounding our chests on, hey, we're walkable. We need to be more walkable. We need to be more competitive. And I'm sorry, I'm probably going off on a tangent. So
no, not at all. Jeff, actually, I may have a resource that you may want to check with, and Michael's aware of it as well, because he helped the business incubator out. John Walsh, that used to be the vice president at the Pasco Economic Development Council, that's the way he approaches things. I mean, he and I are working with other economic development organizations around, the state and the country to address things within their community exactly the way that you're describing it. So,
what's the resource you have, Dino?
Huh?
What's the resource you referenced?
John Walsh.
Oh, just the individual.
The person.
I thought there was a data resource that you were referencing.
John, because John has a process because he did that. He spent almost 30 years in economic development. So he understands that stuff. He's consulting now, and we're working together because he believed in, what we were trying to accomplish and use Business Growth Simplified for in Pasco County. That's why he left there, because the regime kind of changed over there, and they decided they were going to come at it from the old school instead of, coming at it from this way that really kind of helped address the other issues. So,
right.
That's one of the reasons that Melanie's here too, because Melanie was actually at Pasco County and she's at Dade City now. So.
Right. I'll talk to John about just to get some sense as to what it would take for the FBI to get into the
absolutely
to the database business. Right now, we don't have that skill at all, but I can certainly look into it.
Right. And, along those lines, it was also told that, for FBI, and again, this isn't a dump on you guys, but I think it's good information no matter who controls it. But
absolutely.
Sure.
Can we identify are vacant properties downtown? And can, you know, so if somebody says, hey, I'm looking to start a hot dog shop, you know, that there's some direction on, hey, these are the places that are open, or you don't want to open up a hot dog shop in this block because there's already a hot dog shop. Maybe
Yes.
move here, you might get more success. And so somebody that can just help guide, and it could be that Danny and Bob do that, and I'm just talking out my butt. You know, so it's just a matter of how we can make if we make everybody more relevant, that make, you know, a rising tide raises all boats.
And
you know,
that's why I said
sort of
John
things.
can help with all of that. I think John could give you direction on potentially how to move in that direction if that's what it is that you want to do. Now, I don't know. Bob and Danny, I know, have had conversations, I believe, with John as well. So they already may be, you know, those things may already be in, or they're aware of them at least. I don't know if they have the resource and the wherewithal to be able to apply some of that stuff. But like I said, I mean.
Well, Danny's
Yeah.
here, so let's see what he has to say.
Sorry, Danny, if I got you in
Sorry to
trouble.
put you on the spot, Danny.
No, you haven't put me on the spot. We have not discussed anything like that with John Walsh. We have talked to him about other things.
Other things? Okay.
Yeah, yes. We worked with him with the EDA on some grant possibilities, and
Right.
which may or may not happen. And as far as Trevor actually would be the guy to really talk to about, he works with me.
Right.
He talks with the downtown businesses particularly more than I do. What I have experienced in talking to the many businesses that we have in the last few months is they're just basically just scared and trying to survive and want to know about all the programs working to get money.
Yeah.
That's
But
it.
see, that's unfortunately, getting money isn't going to fix the problem. They got to understand what it is that's going on. And that's what I mean, you know, Danny, because we've been working very closely with you all along.
Right.
That's why I've been banging the drum so hard about, look, you need to understand the stages of growth. Most businesses, the problem that they had where they were profitable at one time, they've slid back to stage one. And it's like, well, you have to understand, this is where I'm at. So these are the things I need to focus on right now. I understand I need to get back here, but this is how I fix to get to that point. And I think a lot of businesses aren't understanding that right now. So,
Well,
You know-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, Danny. A couple of things popped into my mind in all of this, so hopefully some of it's helpful. When Jeff was talking, he gave the example of why is a person going to this store, like a CVS or a Walgreens, to get it, or Home Depot, and things that popped into my mind. I don't know that it's black and white, and you can say that this person went to this store for this reason, and it's because they have brand loyalty to CVS. This person goes to Ace Hardware because it's convenient, or this person, so there's lots of different reasons why people would go and have their shopping patterns that they have. So that's one thing. And then as far as, you know, the survival and where can I get money comment that is being found, something that I learned is in order to get people to the place where Dino, you want them to get to, you have to meet them where they're at first and help them to solve that problem, to get their brain even to open up to get to the next spot.
well, that's why we're working with all of them through the city to find, I mean, we found money for 70 plus businesses and helped them get the funding that they needed. But then they went away. They got the money they needed, but they're not, that's what I'm saying. It's I got what I need, I'm off to the next thing or whatever, instead of, okay, what am I going to do with this that's going to help me to get? And what happens is the money runs out, and now I'm right back in the same spot that I was at. You know?
So what was missing in that process that would need to be closed in order for that not to happen?
And can I just, I wrote a note at the beginning of all of this, Dino, and when we were, before anything got started, but it's kind of wrapped around, so I might as well just bring it up here. What would be a great presentation actually would be, you know, I got an SBA loan, I got a PPP loan, I got a Florida Cares loan, whatever it is, or a grant. Like, what now? What now? What do I do with this? How do I best be a steward of this funding so that in the end, it hasn't harmed me. And in the end, I've used it efficiently and appropriately to support my business, to support my employees, whatever it's supposed to be for. Because, you know, the applications are out there, but all the nuances are hard to understand sometimes.
Right.
And I think a lot of businesses are, I mean, I'm looking at where Mark works, you know, and the owner doesn't want any information from me. It doesn't matter what I've offered, but I'm also watching her kind of struggle through things. And I'm like, I might have an answer for that. I might have a person to talk to for that. Because I don't always know that she's using that stuff. I mean, she was like, yeah, I couldn't get any money. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got like 10 employees. How is it you couldn't? You
Right.
know, there's just those nuances in all of this that I think might be really, really helpful as a presentation. I would want to attend one that tells me, like, what do I do now? What next?
Right. Well, and those were the resources. We made all those resources available. It was just a matter of, and then when we did put those things out there and try to promote them through the chamber and stuff like that, nobody,
it's
we had
very different.
very low. We had a very, very low amount of people that downloaded the checklist that we put together to help people with that stuff.
I
We
hear
decided
that.
nobody wanted to go to the webinar, you know, so it's like, it's apathy more than anything else. It's not that those things aren't available. It's people won't take the action that they need in order to move forward with some of that stuff.
Yeah,
It's frustrating. It's frustrating because that's all I want to do is help those businesses. And I know I can. It's just,
right.
you know, they're unwilling for whatever. And hopefully, Michael, you're going to help us to understand that the next time when you do the presentation a week after next, because it's all mind stuff. I mean, I know I know more than most people on that stuff, but I just can't seem to crack through that.
Well, and I also think some of this has to do with, you know, learning styles. You know, I am not a person who easily just absorbs information because I've now downloaded a resource to read.
Right.
I really like having the interaction, the conversation, you know, hearing other people's thoughts on it and what's going on for them. That has so much more impact, which is why, you know, I've done the incubator for as long as I have.
Right.
You know, so yeah, you can give me the resources. I don't know what to do with this list. I just see a bunch of names of organizations that are offering me resources that I now have to dig through. And I know that just adds more work to the person presenting, but at the same time, that for me creates more value to have those conversations. So, you know, even if we called it, I got money and support, what now?
Now what do I do?
You know?
Yeah.
That would catch somebody's attention and more than, you know, and 3 reasons why you're stuck, which yes. But you know, I don't know that I'm stuck. What do you mean I'm stuck? You know, like, but I know that I need help figuring out what to do with the money that I've gotten and, you know, and how to apply that to.
Right.
So.
Languaging differences.
No, that's good feedback, Evelyn, for sure.
Yeah, you know, the same thing with like the marketing material that we've been kind of trudging through. It's like, in some ways it's too flippin' business. And I get that it's business, but at the same time, we're all human beings that, you know, go out and have a beer and sit down and have a conversation. And we kind of need that too. You know,
Right.
I need to be drawn in because of the, you know, because it hits home, not from a businessy language, but because it hits home in the way that I need support in my life. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Okay, I'll be quiet now.
Thanks for your input.
It was good input.
So
Maybe
Danny,
we
I'm
should
sorry
do
I
that.
interrupted you before, so I'm turning the stage back to you, Danny.
I actually don't have anything to add to what's being said. I think it's good.
How about to Evelyn's point? Maybe we do another brews and do's, but you just have to bring your own brew, right? And do a Zoom one.
Well, I think
I
Evelyn's.
mean, I can drink my beer in front of my computer just as well as I can drink my beer, you know.
Right.
It's cheaper.
Right.
Well, the point that Evelyn makes is something that I discovered years ago when I was raising my three daughters, and I didn't want them to get categorized and lumped into one big category going through school. Even when they got out of high school, I tried to help them understand what is it inside of them that what hits them right, what speaks to them, what do they have a passion for, all these kind of things. So I had all three of my girls tested like junior year in high school, paid for it myself just to try to find out who they were, what they were. And as it's turned out in life, we were spot on, dead on. The thing that I learned when I was in school, going through the school process, and this is no different, you're getting taught something, is that not everybody is the same. You know, they grade you A, B, C, D, E, F in school. And the people that are below average, which is C, maybe they're just as smart as the other kids. They're just not being provoked in the right way. This is not their environment. It is.
That's right.
It is true. And so you got the kids that structure works for. They make the honor society. They're on the top list, A and B's. And then, you know, guys like me would go home and get in trouble with my mom and dad because I'm making poor grades. And so I got punished for it instead of trying to figure out what is the deal. Well, the school system wasn't set up to even consider anything like that back then, particularly. And it's probably still not. But Evelyn's point is excellent in the sense that it applies to us. I mean, I'm almost 68 years old, and I am still a person hungry for learning. But it's got to hit me right. It's got to be something that speaks to me. If it's a bunch of stuff, like she's saying right there, if it sounds status quo, what everybody's spitting out, then that's going to hit a few people. Then it's going to miss a bunch of people too. Yep. So we got to figure out how to disseminate this out in the way that most people can get something out of it and move forward, if that makes sense. Listen, I have read your book, Dino, and as a matter of fact, I was going through it, page 78, where you're talking about this getting stuck thing. And I agree with a lot of the principles that you're talking about. And I read the book simply because I wanted to be educated towards what we are trying to get other people to understand. Right now, most of these businesses out here are not necessarily interested so much. You said it yourself that they're just there's apathy there, but there's a reason for that apathy. You know, I mean, most people will move if they get prodded in some way. You know, you touch a hot stove with your finger, you're going to go ouch and not do that again because something got your attention. And that's what Evelyn's saying. I think she's right. When she said it, it just kind of hit me as right too. I mean, it's something I realized years ago. It's not everybody's not cut from the same cloth. Not everybody learns the same way. Not everybody. Well, you know what I excelled in school? Music. I got straight A's in band.
Yep.
I did poorly in every other class, and it's not that I was stupid.
Is that why you got a studio in your house, Danny?
That's probably why, because that was my passion. That was my passion. And if
bingo.
You got to appeal to somebody. You got to first off figure out what they're passionate. That's no different. I ran an ad agency for many, many years. And one of the things I tried to understand is what will cause people to buy, what will cause them to respond. And you can't just throw a message out there because it's just going to gloss right over most folks. Because they're getting bombarded anyway. How can we communicate in a way that all of a sudden I feel like it's an epiphany? I feel like, oh my God, I hadn't thought of it like that before. I will say this and then I'll shut up. I'm reading a book on creativity. And one of the things that this person has put this together said is that an awful lot of people do not try to keep up with what's going on now and what's getting ready to happen down the pipe. Whatever they've learned in their past, they're comfortable with, and they stick with it. Right. And so what they end up getting, even in a modern time, they end up getting answers to old questions.
Right.
And I thought that was a good way to say that, because basically the answers they're getting is to questions they had 25 years ago. And yet that doesn't make sense to them because they need to get answers to today's questions, but they're not asking them because somebody or something has not appealed to them in the right way to make it kind of gel there. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Well, and that's a great description. I learned this, so I can't tell you who I learned it from because I've had so many different sources of where I learned stuff. So I want to give credit, but I can't. But one of the questions I've come to ask is the job of communication 100%? Like if this is person A and this is person B, is it 100% person A's responsibility if they want to communicate to persons B? Or is it 50-50 or is it something else? So I would just like to do a query. What do you guys think? If A wants to communicate something to B, is it 100% A's responsibility or 50-50 or something else?
Well, you can't control how the other person hears. I'm sorry. So it's your
Right.
responsibility to do what you can to be clear, but it's really not about whose responsibility it is because ultimately both are responsible for trying to get the clear message in all of it.
So,
I mean-
so that is 100 and 100. Both parties are 100% responsibility, but what we get taught, because I've heard it myself, no, it's this person's responsibility or this person's responsibility, and we've never been told or informed that it's actually both parties' responsibility. And so that's part of the conundrum of communication that I mean, because I struggle with like communicating with a particular type of person that has whatever, and I'm like, how do I get through to them when I don't see that they're willing to get through to me as well? So, I mean, I've had to change the word from, instead of having a conversation, can we have a dialogue? And that doesn't
And
always
so-
work, but it opens up more people, right?
Well, and once again,
Here we
like
go.
I gave Michael Broom a hard time when he was talking about the logo sketches that I was doing. I was like, well, when you say something should be more graceful, like what does that mean? Because even the definition of a word. And once again, as Danny was pointing out, you know, and what I was I'm working on a website for a woman who does STEM. She's putting together STEM curriculum for homeschoolers and instructors who are going to be teaching kids. And we were talking about education as a whole and the struggle that we have where, you know, now parents are trying to school their kids and they don't understand this whole issue of communication. And it's so important to like get people to see what your kids love and to take education from there and to make it relevant. And if we can't make it relevant, it's really hard for people to connect to it, you know? And the same thing, like if I read a title, you know, why is your business not growing? That may not be relevant because I may not know. I might think that it's growing because I'm very, very busy, you know? But I don't see what Dino's saying, that just because you're super busy doesn't necessarily mean your business is growing. That looks a different way. So you gotta play with, you know, what appeals, what hits us home, understanding, like, you know, we've heard other presenters offer, you know, understanding what the problem is for the person and touching them with that.
And
So.
Evelyn, in all fairness to Dino and Jen, we all got smacked in the face with the pandemic.
Oh my goodness, yes.
This put every business, whether you can speak to them about or things or not, put everybody in a bind.
Yeah.
And Dino and Jen came out with the information and was very, very available and helpful to so many businesses. I know I sent several myself to them.
Oh, yeah.
And so in all fairness to what Dino's been doing, that's the only thing these people were interested in at the time. I don't care who they are. They were interested in like, oh my God,
Where do I get the money? Yeah.
I need some money
Yeah.
just to
I
survive
hear
right now. I've got employees. You know, now it's going to get to the point, you know, as we continue on in this thing, and the money is still there to some degree, but it's eventually going to not be there.
Right.
And so now it's time for people like Dino and Jen who have this expertise to say, okay, now let us try to help you survive here and not just survive, but grow your business. We're going to, and his book's called Business Growth Simplified. I mean, I think it's a good title. I think it's just keep it simple. You know, I like it. And I think if he can show the simplicity of it, and it's
Yeah.
really, it's just a few steps that you need to consistently take, and you can probably get these results here. I think what Evelyn is saying, though, is maybe us, the city, since we're working with Dino and Dino himself, maybe we need to come up with a marketing way of presenting that to where it appeals to all kinds of different people with all kinds of different mindsets, to where maybe somebody who's not getting it, like you said, didn't know if their business is hurting or not, as far as growing or not. How can we speak to them and get their attention? Now, there's just going to be folks, obviously, that's never going to respond to anything. You know, doesn't care. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you say, how you put it, what pictures you draw with it. Doesn't matter. Just not interested.
Well, and it's funny, Danny, because that whole idea in that conversation, we've had this conversation on more than one occasion with Pam at the chamber, you know, because she's continually putting information out, and, you know, and it's just falling on deaf ears. You know, people
Absolutely
won't read their email when they put out something special. They don't really look, you know, everyone's not looking at the newsletter, and those things are all packed full of, you know, again, understand.
Well,
what do you want me to do? I mean, I have to promote that these things are going on in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
But speaking to the way to reach people, we have visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So reading, some people don't like visual and reading, and so they might like hearing it, or they might like, you know, doing an interactive exercise and stuff like that. So that's where,
and that's not what I'm saying.
Lots of different channels that have to be used.
How do you get those? It's not that those resources aren't available. I understand what you just said. Okay. Everything that I have can be read. It can be listened to. It can be, anytime I put a piece of content out, that content goes out 5 different ways because I understand what you're saying. But how do people understand or know that that's there?
Okay. Well, Melanie, what are your thoughts about this?
If I can get myself unmuted. I'm enjoying listening to the conversation, and again, I apologize for being a little bit late. We're in budget crunch, so I'm being interrupted constantly too. So that's why I got the video off. But I am actually enjoying the conversation, and I look forward to attending some of the future ones, so I can learn a little bit more about what everybody's doing and how things are progressing with our other regional businesses and our other partners that try to promote business. So thank you for inviting me.
Sure.
And I have to say, Dino, I mean, I'm throwing whoever I can find and willing to go to you because I so appreciate the work you're doing. I really do. I'm just trying to think of ways we can get more people
engaged.
Involved.
More people engaged. That's what we're trying to do. And
Right. And when we figure out that answer, we'll be in great shape.
So I have a question or a comment or an idea. I don't know what it is at this moment, but I heard, I think it was Danny say that Trevor talks to downtown business owners all the time. And I don't know if there was I think that's the case. And if the questions or the comments he was getting from them was, I'm trying to survive, where can I get the money? Maybe one avenue is for Trevor to actually have a great understanding of what Dino is trying to present here too, so that he could then say, hey, if we help you get to the money, what are you going to use it for? And are you aware of there's more options? And because people also think very short term, and there's very, very, very few of the population that thinks futuristic or long term. And we actually have to help people to do both.
Right.
Folks,
I was just comment.
it is.
Can I comment real?
Okay, go on.
Doctor,
and we need to close up in about 2 minutes. Go, Danny.
I wanted to say that Trevor does do all the stuff that she's talking about already. He's already on top of it.
I was going to say he doesn't attend these, but I mean he's Danny's peer, and they're doing the same thing. They cover in different businesses in different areas or regions of the city, more or less, that they're working with. Because I mean Trevor sent plenty of people our way as well, and we've sent them back because there were problems that they were having that were not really funding issues, and and the city was the one that needed to take care of it, and they did a great job at doing that. I mean, those people we're just thrilled that it was like, well, here's who you need to talk to, and go talk to, and Trevor helped them out, and they were ecstatic with the results that came from that. It's just people have got to be willing to engage, and I think that may be part of it too.
Well,
People are embarrassed.
What comes up for me is, what's the outcome here? So how many people are you trying to meet or help or serve, or whatever the right terminology is? And how, if you're not measuring how many that is, have you hit it yet? Or is it a target, and all of that kind of stuff? So that's just something else to kind of say.
Yep. Folks, we've had a great hour-and-a-half conversation. Really, thank you for coming. Next week is a challenge round. Show up for that. And 2 weeks after that, we'll really delve more deeply into mindsets and the mindset of, oh, there is a choice. Okay, so.
We have a choice.
Yeah, really.
People
I like it, Michael.
So,
I like it. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. See you next week, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
This was great. Thank you.